So this is video week 1 of Baby and Me, catching everybody up on what's been happening the past few weeks. So I'm gonna just dive right into what week 1 was like for me and the baby. Basically, I was admitted to the hospital on September 29th and had an emergency C-section on the morning of October 1st. It was 3:09 in the morning, and out he came. So because I had the emergency C-section, I was in recovery at the hospital for 4 days, I believe, and just wanted to go into a little bit about all of that and my experience so people can relate, or if you have any questions or anything, hopefully it kind of helps. I'll talk about the baby first, Jameson. He was born 6 pounds 11 ounces, and so he wasn't little, but he wasn't big either. And basically right away they wanted me to start breastfeeding, which I did choose to go the route of breastfeeding. And in the beginning, in the first few days, it's your milk isn't in, so it's just this stuff called colostrum. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough to keep his weight, and he lost almost a pound within the first day of him being alive. So basically, after that, they did have me start supplementing with some formula to get his weight back up, and I stayed up in the hospital for 2 days, pretty much all day and all night, feeding him every 2 hours religiously. And then we got his weight almost, well, it got back under 10%, loss of 10%, and they were happy with that. So once his weight got back up and I started to feel a little bit better, they did let us go home from the hospital. So now to talk a little bit about that and about me, I will say that I don't know what an experience with a normal vaginal delivery is like, but I can talk about having the C-section. You basically, having a C-section is going through a major surgery. I was on lots of painkillers, and I was not really in pain because I was on the painkillers, but as soon as those painkillers started to wear off, man, it was tough. So it was extremely important to have help for that first week at least, when we got back home, and I did have it between my husband and family. So I would make sure that you definitely have help the first week, regardless, C-section or vaginal delivery. And so we brought him home, and we have dogs who at first were extremely, they had no idea what was going on. His crying was very, they did not like it. They did not like when he cried. It was very distressing to them. They didn't understand. So for the first couple of days it was kind of rough, because anytime he cried, the dogs would cry, because they just didn't know what was going on. But eventually they started to get used to him, and everything is pretty much good now. They kind of just leave him alone. Sometimes I'll come up and lick him, but I think for the most part they know that he's a little baby and he's very important to me and Ryan, so they just kind of mind their own business. For the first week that we were here, I just want to talk about that real quick. I was on a super high. I think it was in part because of the drugs that I was on, but I went through a very crazy nesting period, probably because I was induced and admitted to the hospital before I was in labor at all, so I never really went through that nesting period where oh my gosh, the baby's about to come. No, I went to the doctor, I had low amniotic fluid, and they sent me to the hospital. So when we got back, I was on this crazy nesting high with the baby, and I was on all these drugs, and I felt great. I felt like Superwoman. I was like, this is awesome, and I loved every minute of it. And he was still pretty like not, he was just sleeping a lot, not crying too much, and everything was feeling really really great. And I'm just saying all that as a precursor because week 2 was the like complete opposite. So just keep in mind that the first week is probably going to be like a very big blur, and make sure you have help. And that was our week 1.